Hey gamers, welcome to the channel for another episode of Will It Play, the series where I try to inform you if and how well games will play on your favorite handheld devices without you, the gamer, needing to make any changes to the settings, whether it's system or in-game settings. Yes, that's right, we're talking default settings, so you can get a realistic expectation of what performance and gameplay will look like if you were just to download a game and immediately start playing, not wasting any time having to tinker with the settings. This is really geared more towards the gamer that just wants to be able to download a game and jump straight in, and they're wondering, will it play? So today we're checking out Warhammer Space Marine 2. The game came out a week ago, and yes, I'm a little late to it, but I've been seeing this game flood social media. People are raving about it, they love it, some people are calling it Game of the Year contender, so I thought I definitely needed to check this one out. Now for me, this is the first time that I have ventured into the Warhammer universe, but so far, I've been enjoying myself. I'm Jared, and this is Space Marine 2, Will It Play? So these are the default settings that I will be referencing in this video. This is what has been defaulted by the game, and I have made no changes. I just verified that we have the same defaults across all systems. First up, we have gameplay on the Steam Deck LCD, and right off the bat, we can see this is a very intensive game on this system. The CPU usage is in the mid to high 80s, and that GPU is capped out at 99%, and the FPS is rough, sitting in the high teens for most of gameplay. Oddly enough, this is one of the rare times where I think that even though we have a low FPS, it was still semi-playable, but unfortunately I did run into some low spikes when combating multiple enemies, and I even had a few crashes during my testing. Looking at battery life, in 1 hour of playing on the LCD I lost 72%, so we can only estimate around 83 minutes of play on a full charge, so not even looking at a full hour and a half. Checking out the Steam Deck OLED, and we see very similar numbers here. CPU usage is still high in the mid to high 80 percentile range. GPU usage is still capped out at that 99%, and I barely had any noticeable increase in FPS, still sitting around 20 frames per second. The only thing that stands out here, as always, is battery life. In 1 hour of playing on the OLED, I lost 42%, so we can estimate around 142 minutes, so you're looking between 2 and 2.5 hours on a full charge. Moving on to the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme version, 15 watt performance mode, 720p resolution, as this is the closest in comparison to the Steam Deck. Lighter load on our CPU, averaging around 30%, and our GPU usage is sitting around 95%, but our FPS is still rough, and we're only averaging in the high teens with some unfortunate dips into the low teens. Playing on the 15 watt performance mode, I lost 76% battery life in just 1 hour, so we can only estimate a little over an hour of playtime on this mode.
Changing magazine.
More gargoyles headed for the antenna!
Over here, brother. More mine.
The enemy are going for the antenna. Eliminate them. The enemy have damaged the antenna.
Next, we're checking out that 25 watt unplugged turbo mode. Obviously, by playing in the higher mode, we do see more of an impact on the CPU usage, averaging in the mid 30 percentile range. With a few jumps in combat, GPU usage is still up there around 95%. With this mode though, we're starting to see some respectable numbers in terms of FPS, averaging in the high 20s. The drawback on turbo mode, as always, is battery life. I didn't even make it a full hour here, getting only 50 minutes on a full charge.
This place reeks of death. They never saw the attack coming. Dare he address you thus?
For this game, the star of the show for the ROG Ally is the 30 watt turbo mode. Playing in, plugged in, we definitely do see a jump in the CPU usage, averaging in the 50s, but we are finally seeing our FPS consistently sit in the mid to high 30s, with even some jumps into the 40s. So if you're looking to play this on the Ally, plugging in looks to be the way to go.
Components well done. Machine lost power. Redistributing load according to our opinion rules.
Vermin stuff.
Weakening submarine network. Restoration effort. Power is restored.
Maintain distance. Move to the door.
Now let's recap battery life. For the Steam Deck LCD, we estimate not even reaching an hour and a half on a full charge. The Steam Deck OLED shines here as always, estimating between 2 and 2.5 hours of game time on a full charge. For the ROG Ally, playing at the 720p and the 15 watt performance mode, we'll only get a little over an hour playtime on a full charge, but it wasn't that much of an enjoyable experience. And then playing in the 720p and the 25 watt turbo mode, we're not even making it a full hour. Now moving on to our average FPS, we're not seeing amazing numbers on this game unfortunately. On both Steam Deck devices, we only see averages in the high teens, maybe low 20s. For the ROG Ally, our best performance will come by playing at the plugged-in turbo mode, as the 15 watt performance mode keeps us around 15 frames per second, and the 25 watt turbo mode is pushing us just into the high 20s. Playing plugged in allows us to get into the 30s consistently. Surprisingly, I didn't see much of a change in FPS depending on the set resolution, so if you're on the Ally, plug it in, bump it up to 1080p, and enjoy the ride. So, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, will it play? Let's talk Steam Deck first. Steam Deck, it's almost there. Like, I feel like this is really close to being a playable game. This is one of the rare times where I would say something under 30 frames per second was actually playable. I felt like even though I was playing consistently at around 20 frames per second, it didn't feel like that. The problem is we're already running that low, and I ran into frequent dips on top of that, especially if you're in a scenario where there's just a bunch of enemies. In fact, I had multiple instances where situations like this, my Steam Deck crashed. It happened on both the LCD and the OLED. There was just too much going on and the system just completely shut down. So while I would say the game is not playable right now on the Steam Deck, It's not verified on Steam Deck. I have read that the developers want to get this better optimized for the Steam Deck, so we might see that coming sometime later this calendar year. If this is something you're really wanting to play on your deck, though, you do have the option of playing it via GeForce Now, or you can just wait until it's a little better optimized. Now let's move on to the ROG Ally. Is it playable on the ROG Ally? Yes, with the caveat that I would say it's only playable if you're playing plugged in on the 30-watt turbo mode. On the 15-watt performance mode, it's a no-go. You're consistently sitting in the teens for frames per second. On the 25-watt turbo mode, you're getting into the 20s, but battery life is so atrocious, you're gonna need to plug it in anyway. And by playing plugged in, you're consistently sitting in the 30s, sometimes pushing up into the 40s. And as I mentioned, what I noticed in my testing on the Ally is that you're not really seeing much of a FPS drop depending on what resolution you're playing on. So I would recommend, since you already need to plug it in, go ahead and bump that up to the 1080p and just enjoy your experience. Have you been playing Space Marine 2? I'd love to hear about your experiences. Are you enjoying it? Do you think it's a Game of the Year contender? Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks everyone for watching, and game on.